Welcome everyone to the third evening where we speak about the sixth chapter of the Bodhisattva Charya, the chapter on patience, which is a chapter that I think we can draw something from, all of us. All of us react to negative feelings with aversion. And when the negative feelings are too strong, that aversion becomes agitation, it becomes anger, it becomes hatred. We all have that, we don't have to say, oh, but I don't need that. We all have that problem. We all have that experience. And so I'm sure for everyone, there is something to learn from thinking about patience. And so we start with a meditation to calm the mind, to settle the mind, to clear the mind from all the busyness that goes on in our mind when we just move through the day. So make sure that you sit comfortable. If you can, you have a straight back and your shoulders are relaxed. You can have your hands in a meditation posture where when we have the right hand on top of the left and the thumbs slightly touching each other. But you can also put them loosely in your lap or on your thighs. Whatever feels most comfortable to you. The arms, the elbows are a little bit away from the torso, allowing air to move freely around the arms. The head is bent forward a little bit. The jaws are relaxed. The tongue is touching the palate, just behind the teeth. And the eyes are lightly closed, but allow a little bit of light to come in. Enough light so that we don't fall asleep, but not too much light that agitates the mind. So find your own middle in this. And then give your body and mind some time to settle into the posture. By being aware of your posture, being aware of your body. And we are aware of our body because of the sensations that arise from the body, that we experience from the body. And we don't have to do anything with these sensations. We are just aware of them. We feel them. We experience them. And then from the corner of your mind, from the corner of your mind, notice how the mind starts to calm down. You don't try to calm the mind down. You let the mind calm down. It happens naturally. You just provide the conditions for that by letting your awareness rest on your body and by sitting in the meditation posture. And when you feel that your mind is settling down and has some more capacity to focus, you can focus your mind on your breath, either by observing the rising and falling of your abdomen, or by observing the sensations at your nostrils. When you notice that your mind is wandering off from your breath, you gently bring it back. And then we can set a good motivation for being here this evening. For engaging in listening to the teachings, in discussing the teachings, reflecting on them. And so we can think that we would like to develop our potential for wisdom and compassion as much as we can. And we do that with the knowledge that when we develop our potential for wisdom and compassion, not only we are going to feel better, but it will be so much easier and effective to serve sentient beings, all those around us. It will be so much easier to be of benefit to them. Just as we suffer from being here on this planet Earth, in this body, all sentient beings experience suffering. And just as we want to be happy, all sentient beings want to be happy. And so in that, we are all the same. I never work only for the happiness and well-being of myself. I'm only working for one sentient being. And so then I only get the merit of working for one sentient being. But if I can develop a mind where I'm really interested in the happiness of others and really have a wish to take care of that, to contribute to that. And if I let that wish expand to all sentient beings, and then if I do any action with a mind that wishes to benefit all sentient beings with that action, the merit that we create is unimaginable, is huge. And so with that merit, we can help more. We can benefit more. Our potential will develop quicker and further. So by reflecting on all these words, try to get to a real feeling inside you. I'm going to do this for all sentient beings. Whatever benefit comes from me being here, I'm going to dedicate that to all sentient beings, the happiness of all sentient beings. And now we can start. How is everyone? Are you doing okay? I see some thumbs up. Or thumbs down is fine too. So yesterday we made a start with the text and we discussed the first few verses, and so we will continue with the text today. And we are speaking about patience, right? Patience being the mind that is undisturbed by harm, or the mind that is undisturbed by suffering. And so someone says anger is a reaction and has a reasoning behind it, which may be correct or not. Are aversion and agitation also a reaction with some kind of reasoning? Yes, you know, they're all from the same category. We have two choices. I like it or I don't like it. When I like it, that means that, you know, we say when pleasant feelings arise, I like that, and then I want more. Then attachment follows. When unpleasant feelings arise, I don't like it, so I have aversion. And if the unpleasant feelings are continuously or they are strong, then I get first agitation, then anger, then hatred. So they're all of the same category. And the reason behind having this reaction is that we try to protect ourselves from that suffering, from that harm. So that is it is not I mean, it's a little bit difficult to say this is reasoning or it is logic, because normally that comes from the thinking mind. This is emotional mind. It is logic looking at the emotion and looking at the ignorance that we are having. You know, when we start analyzing, it doesn't make any sense what we're doing. But when we think about ourselves on the level of the emotion, it makes total sense what we are doing. So it depends how we look at it. But anger, aversion, hatred, all has the function, I want to protect myself. And so when we really look what anger is doing, somebody harms me, verbally, physically, it doesn't matter. Somebody's harming me, and immediately anger is there. But if we start analyzing, then we see there is first a contact between that action of the other person and me, my body, my mind. Independence on that contact, feelings arise. Independence on these feelings, independence on these feelings, the aversion and the anger gets triggered, or, you know, it is a natural reaction in the sense that it happens automatically. We cannot say, oh, today I'm not gonna react to unpleasant feelings with aversion, I'm gonna react to them with attachment. We cannot do that unless we use reasoning to change our mindset. Right? But if we're on the automatic pilot, when we experience harm or suffering, there will always be aversion. We push it away. I don't want it. I don't want it. Right? And that makes sense, right? Because what we said in the motivation, we all want to be free of suffering. We all want to be happy. This wish to be happy, we're never going to give that up. You know, that is part of our nature. And I think our wish to be happy is what eventually is going to take us to enlightenment, to liberation and enlightenment. It is the wish to be happy. And by applying reasoning, we can, at a certain point, we can see that the happiness of this life is not real happiness. And even the happiness of future lives is maybe not enough to be completely free of suffering and experience real happiness. And so then from that wish to be happy, combined with our wisdom mind, we start striving for liberation and enlightenment. So that wish to be happy, we never give up. That wish to be free from suffering, we never give up. But the method that we use for it, at the moment, the method that we use to be happy and to be free of suffering is an emotional reaction. That doesn't go to the cognitive thinking. It just happens automatically. Next moment, we react. And so that reaction is based on the self-grasping mind. The self-grasping mind, which grasps at a self in a way which is totally opposite to how the self exists in reality. That self-grasping mind is totally blinded by ignorance. It cannot see what is actually there. And so that reaction that arises in dependence on that self-grasping mind is therefore also actually counterproductive. Right? It cannot be different. If I believe that myself exists in a certain way, and then actually the self exists in the opposite way, then anything that arises in that independence on that belief in the self is also opposite to reality. Right? So then any reaction that we have to free ourselves from suffering and to find more happiness is actually doing the opposite of what we think it is going to do. And so these reactions that we are having are coming from a place of ignorance where we cannot see reality. They come from a place of our emotions, right? These are automatic reactions, and they come from very deep. They have been with us since beginner's time. We do not know ourselves without these reactions. So this is the only thing we have, right? To be free of suffering and to find happiness. If we don't meet the teachings, this is all we have. Where do I go with this? So the logic or what makes sense is that we want to be free of suffering. And so the only method that we have at the moment is that we react with aversion when suffering arises. Of course, we want to be free of suffering. And the only method that I have is I'm going to run away, or I push it away, or I don't want to hear it, or I don't want to feel it. I don't want it. That's the only thing I can do at the moment. I have no other reasonings to think about what is happening to me than just my reaction. All right, but we will talk about that later a little bit more. Is it useful to get into the whole story behind anger and analyzing it? Or can one simply dissolve anger in meditation by simply feel the feeling? It's not that simple, right? Because it feels totally against our nature, right? It feels totally against what we are so used to doing. So you do not necessarily need to know the whole story. Sometimes it is handy to know something of the story, because then things make more sense and then it is easier to apply the antidote. But in essence, you know, anger is just an aversion to an unpleasant feeling. And unpleasant feelings, once they are felt, they are gone. So if I can somehow find a way to be with that anger without increasing it, and then when it starts to dissolve, to be with that unpleasant feeling without reacting to it, you know, that's great, fantastic. Then you don't have to hear the story. You don't have to know the story behind the anger. But sometimes it's not enough, you know. When anger arises in the mind, often the reason for that is that we feel hurt. There is a pain inside. And in order to heal that pain, in order to let go of that anger, often we need compassion. You know, when we are in pain and we cannot tell a story to a friend who is really listening, and maybe is even crying with us when we are crying, right? Then after half an hour, 1 hour, we say, oh, I feel so much better. Why? Not because I told my story, but because there was somebody who listened with compassion to my story. And so when there is anger in the mind, there is also hurt in the mind. These are the unpleasant feelings, right? That can be a deep pain. We need to listen to that pain with compassion, with loving kindness. That makes that we can, that we create an environment in which we can allow that unpleasant feeling to arise. Right? And then only after that it can dissolve. So you try if it is enough to just analyze and then sit with it, and you can do it. Maybe some people can do it. Other people will need that compassion in order to let go of their anger, you know, to really feel what actually happened. All right. So patience is the mind that is undisturbed by harm and suffering, which means it can bear the suffering, which means it knows the suffering. It knows how to be with the suffering. I think compassion is needed for that, right? We need to have compassion to hold that suffering. And so when somebody hurts us and we react with anger, I was talking about that it goes very quick, the contact with that other person, the feeling that arises, and then the reaction that arises. And to the mind that is not trained, it looks all like the same. I'm feeling angry, right? We say, I'm feeling angry, but anger is not a feeling. Anger is a reaction to the feeling, right? But in the normal way of talking, we say, I feel angry, because it feels all the same, right? And we feel that if I'm angry, I somehow can stop that feeling, right? There is a painful feeling, and then by becoming angry, I feel I can stop that feeling. Or maybe sometimes we have the feeling, sometimes we think, or sometimes we believe that if I'm really angry, or if I'm shouting back, or if I'm thinking over what happened to me, oh, this cannot have happened to me, oh my God, why did that happen to me? Somehow that anger is trying to undo what already has happened to us. Anger is a not accepting of that painful feeling that is arising, right? And when we listen to the mind, where that anger is going around and around, we're coming up with scenarios in which we make that it doesn't happen, right? If I had done that, if I had left 5 minutes later the house, it would not have happened, right? Why did I not do that? Well, you did do it, and it did happen. Right? So we are a little bit in denial when we start doing that, right? If I had done it like that, it would not have happened. I wish I would have said this to that person, then this would not have happened. This is not accepting what already has happened. It's like we're trying to change it. We're trying to change what already has happened, trying to change the past. And so one way of dealing with that is that we are very, we can stop that mental engagement that is trying to change the past by saying it has happened. We keep repeating that to ourselves. It has happened. No matter what you think about it, no matter what, you did do that. You didn't do anything else. It has happened. Until we surrender to that knowledge that it has happened. And when we do that, we stop pushing it away. We stop trying to change it. And that can be also a way to easier digest the unpleasantness that has happened to us. So in order to develop patience, we need wisdom. And so we need to unravel a little bit that situation. There is the contact, then there is the feeling, then there is the reaction to the feeling, then there is the mental engagement that happens on the basis of that. And we have to see that all these things are different aspects. It's like the main thing is the unpleasant feeling, and then in dependence on that, so much happens in the mind. We have to open that up and see all the parts of it. And so in order to do that, we need wisdom. In order to see, we need wisdom. And so, yeah, yesterday somebody asked a question after the class. He said, if aversion and anger is a reaction to the feeling, right? The feeling arises and then there is a reaction of aversion and anger. He said, how do I create a gap between the feeling and the reaction so that I can change my reaction? And so I thought, because sometimes we do that, right? We go to a meditation center and we do a retreat and we are watching the mind and we are watching the feelings arising and we're watching our reactions to the feelings and we're trying to get to that place where the reaction begins, you know, and then we try to step back and not engage in that reaction. But I thought in normal life, it's impossible, right? We have to keep our eyes on so many things. When aversion arises, it's already there. We cannot watch the gap between the feeling and the reaction to the feeling when we are in normal life. And then I thought also, like, even if you can do it in meditation, even if you know, it is great if you have that insight that is a possibility and you get so much information about the difference between feelings and reactions to the feelings. But in order to change our way of reacting, what we need is we need a lot of reasons that we can apply right in the moment that things happen to us. We need a lot of reasons that we contemplate on a meditation cushion before things happen to us, you know, that we familiarize with, so that when things happen to us, they come automatically and we have a less strong reaction. To have no reaction at all, to have no aversion at all, we need to realize the nature of reality directly, which is going to take quite a long time. You know, I always thought I'm going to do that in this life, but I know now it's going to take a long time, a little bit longer than one lifetime. But that is the only way how we can stop that automatic reaction, by realizing emptiness directly. Before we have the mind that can realize emptiness directly, we need to use other methods. We need to use reasoning, you know, and we need to look at the conventional nature of reality and apply reasoning from that in order to change the mind. Okay. So the reasonings that we can apply is, for instance, it's not really a reasoning, but if we can see the benefits of suffering, You know, at the moment, suffering is all bad, right? Suffering, I don't like it. But what if we say, you know, sometimes you hear that. It's like, oh, I have this problem, I have a problem. And then people say, why don't you see it as an opportunity for growth, right? But what you do when you see something as an opportunity for growth, the aversion that you have towards your problem, right? Problem is not nice. But if you see it as an opportunity, that aversion can move away, that can transform into, oh, I can learn something here. I can grow from this. I can develop these qualities, independence on this problem. Then already a lot of aversion is gone, right? Can still be difficult to move through that. But at least I have a mind that wants to engage, wants to move through that problem, right? So when something happens to us and we can see the benefit of it, when something which looks negative, we can see the benefit. Reaction changes, right? It took me many years to get this one. I'm not going to see this as an opportunity for growth. What are you talking about? I thought it was a new age thing, you know, but now I think there's actually something really good and truthful in that. We can also use reasoning with respect to the conventional nature of reality, like reflecting on impermanence, reflecting on that things do not arise in and of themselves. You know, the fact that we meet with someone who harms us is not coming out of the blue. It can appear like it comes out of the blue, but things do not occur in life like that. For one thing to occur in life, many causes and conditions are needed. Many causes and conditions, not one, many. From our side, from the other person's side, and they come together. Many causes and conditions, right? And when you think about that, you know, if somebody has harmed me, that person can start to look really bad and really mean and I'm just focused on that person and how do I get this person out of my life? But if I realize all these causes and conditions that are contributing to the event that I have experienced, I take that I stop concretizing that other human being so much. You know, I stop concretizing that. And that person doesn't become the only one to blame. There are so many other factors involved. Right? Then it takes the blame away. Then I also need to take some responsibility for the feelings that are arising and for the way that I react to my feelings. Right? That makes it easier. And then we can also contemplate the ultimate nature of reality. You know, where is aversion coming from? And then I go back to the 8 worldly concerns. Aversion and attachment, they are they're very much connected with each other. And in the 8 worldly concerns, we have these 4 pairs of 2, right? We want to have we want to have praise, and we want to be free of criticism, right? For instance. So our attachment to praise, makes that we have an aversion to criticism. If I would have no attachment to praise, I don't mind if people criticize me. But if I walk around with my neediness of, please tell me how good I am, you know, and then somebody says something negative, oh, I'm so deeply hurt, right? So our attachment to the pleasures is often the reason that we get so angry when that pleasure is not there, or when the opposite of that, what gives us pleasure, is there. Can you see that? So anger is very strongly related to our attachment. So when we lessen the attachment, we lessen the anger that arises when the opposite happens to us. Attachment comes from the self-grasping mind, right? Holding on to a self in a way that if we investigate, the self cannot exist like that. We hold on to this you know, we have this feeling that there is this objective entity, this independent entity somewhere present in us. Sometimes we feel it in the stomach, sometimes we feel it in the heart, sometimes maybe in our brains, but we feel like that's myself. And that self feels as if it is independent of anything else. An entity standing in and of itself. So the stronger we hold on to a self like that, the stronger our attachment will be to get what we need. And so the stronger our aversion and anger will be when we do not get what we need. Or when we get something that we don't want. Right? They're all related. So then when I start thinking about that self-grasping mind, and I start meditating on the lack of such a self, you know, based on proper reasoning, then the attachment that arises also becomes less strong. Then the aversion that arises also becomes less strong, right? So there are many, many, many ways that we can address, I was going to say, our lack of patience, you know. We can address that reactivity that we are having. We can, that need to react strongly. We can change that in many, many different ways. And so Shantideva, he goes through all of them slowly, slowly. I should start with the text, right? So there was one more question, and then I go to the text. Because it is related to that. So somebody ask, do people with low self-esteem indulge more in self-loathing, self-hatred? And those with high self-esteem lash out at others when anger arises? So the question is, do people with low self-esteem more direct their anger to themselves? And people who have high self-esteem, do they lash out to others? And I'm not sure. I think low self-esteem and high self-esteem, however you want to say it, is both coming from pride. Right? In the Amitabha Kosha, there is one division of 7, dividing pride into 7, and 6 of them are related to I feel better than somebody else. But one of the divisions is I feel less than others. You know, so having low self-esteem is a type of pride. It's still a form of self-grasping, believing something about yourself which is not in accordance with reality. Holding yourself in lower esteem than that you exist in actuality is a form of self-grasping, is a form of pride. Right? So both are ways of pride. And I think when we get angry and we have low self-esteem and we are with someone who is higher than us in a more authoritative position, and we are scared to express that anger, you know, then I think, yes, we can turn it to ourselves. But then if I have to say I am the one with the low self-esteem and I'm too scared to speak up to someone in a higher position, or, you know, maybe my mom and dad, maybe my teacher, I'm too scared. So I turn, when I get angry at them, I turn it against myself. But then my little brother, you know, and my little sisters, when I'm with them and they do something that I don't like, that anger that I have been storing, that I haven't been able to express, I might actually lash out to them. Right? So I think it depends on with whom we are. The one with high self-esteem, they might feel strong enough to lash out with the anger to those in higher position, but I'm not sure, you know. Maybe they feel they are in higher position, so then other people are lower than them, so they feel they have the right to lash out to them because others are less than them. I think, I don't know, is it more difficult to lash out to people who are higher than you, somehow, in more authority than you? It's more difficult, right? We normally don't do that, right? But to the ones who are lower, we do. More easily, right? Yeah. So I think we just keep that anger inside and then we do it when somebody is in a lower position. So someone asked to differentiate between feelings and reactions. Yeah, I did speak about that and I will come back to that at another point in time. The feeling is the experience and the reaction is the doing mind, you know, the mental engagement that arises in dependence on the experience. So let's go to the verses. We are at verse 4, right? So verse 4 says, a master who has hatred is in danger of being killed, even by those who, for their wealth and happiness, depend upon the master's kindness. And so for master, we can also think an employer. The master is the employer? Is the employer, yes. The one who employs others, yes. So when you have an employer and he has many people working for them, you know, but this employer is full of hatred and he speaks badly. And he, you know, he scolds you when you don't do what he wants. And we can all imagine an employer like that, right? So do you like a person like that? Do you like to work for a person like that? No, right? So you stay because you need your money. You need to make sure that you make some money so that you can buy food and you can pay your rent and things like that. But a person who is so angry, people don't like to be with a person like that. Even when the person gives them every month money, right? As soon as we have a chance to run away from that person, as soon as we get another job, we move out. We don't want to be with them. And so our employer giving you money for the work that you're doing, in Buddhism, we say that is the kindness of the employer, right? It is, right? But it is the kindness, right? Because they give us the money. And so then with that money, we can go shopping.
But we are also doing that.
That is our kindness. Our kindness is that we work for that person, but his kindness is that he gives us money, right? He could also give us less money. And there have been times that people who were working for somebody else that would get no money, they would just get shelter and some food, right? So we can say the money is coming out of the kindness of the employer. But even that kindness, when that is there, you know, even when we depend upon that kindness, when there is hatred in the mind of that person, we do not want to be with that person. Right? That is the force of hatred. By it, which is by the hatred, friends and relatives are disheartened. Though drawn by my generosity, they will not trust me. In brief, there is nobody who lives happily with anger. So when I'm that angry person, when I'm the employer who's angry, you know, and maybe I'm angry and I'm shouting at people and I'm rude to people, but then sometimes I give them something extra. It's Christmas and I give you a bonus, right? And I think I'm generous to my people. I don't have to give them that. I'm generous. This is my kindness. But people are not going to be happy with you, right? They take the bonus and they run away. It's like, I still don't want to have Christmas with you, right? And so when somebody has that nature of erupting in anger, we don't want to be with them. We don't trust them. When is it going to happen? You know, when I do something wrong, they might scold me. But sometimes even when I do nothing wrong, they scold me. So then I don't trust them. Right? So when I'm the angry person, I will notice that nobody wants to stay with me. And when people are staying with me, they sit like, really, you know, I actually do not want to open up to you. I don't want to come too close to you. That you can see the aversion in their body language, right? If you are a little bit observant, right? That is what anger is doing. And sometimes, you know, we have relationships that we worked on. I think we mentioned that yesterday. We worked on that for our whole life. 30 years, my best friend. And then one thing happened and anger arises. Relationship finished. Right? Can happen like that. True? When we're not tolerant, when we do not tolerate something, you know, relationship finished. So I know in the last few years, many relationships got finished, right? Why? Because we don't tolerate another opinion, right? Finished. It's very, very, very painful for everyone, you know, for everyone. If you have a good relationship and that relationship gets finished because of one thing, both parties are suffering. Right? And there's no one right in that, I think. Hence the enemy, anger, creates suffering such as these, but whoever assiduously overcomes it finds happiness now and hereafter. And so here Shantideva says that the real enemy is not the one who is harming us, is not the one who is shouting at us, but the real enemy is that anger that arises in dependence upon that. The real enemy is our short-temperedness. The real enemy is the fact that we follow that anger and we lash out to other people. That is the enemy. That is what is disturbing the mind. That is what is creating all the trouble for us. And so if we want to counteract an enemy, right? Anger is what appears as protecting us from an enemy. But actually anger is the enemy itself, dressed up like a friend. I come and help you, you know, to slay your enemy. But actually that is the enemy. Dressed up as a friend. And so we have to unmask that friend and say, oh, I can see your true nature. You're actually my enemy. You create all the suffering that I have been experiencing. And so therefore, I'm going to counteract, I'm going to engage in activities that will counteract your harmful nature. Right? And so when we can do that, when we can really address that anger inside us, we become happy, right? When we're angry, we are suffering. But when we are without anger, we are happy. True? We think when I'm without anger, I'm going to suffer. And I cannot do anything against that suffering. Right? How do I live my life without anger? It's impossible. I need to take care of myself. You ask me not to protect myself. How can I do that?
Anger of one person destroying so many countries. When Russia, Ukraine were only one person.
The anger of one person is destroying so many countries.
Ego,
But
ego,
huh?
Their ego,
One person ego can destroy so many countries. I don't believe that.
What happening in Ukraine? Person Putin have ego.
So this is what the mind does, right? This is the mind concretizing one person. Oh, it's Putin's fault. Oh, it's Trump's fault. Oh, it's Biden's fault. Oh, you know, it's like it's not one person.
But ultimately it led to the use of an atom bomb. North Korea will not.
And so then somebody says, but Putin is talking about using an atom bomb. Have you seen that he's doing that?
There is a statement coming
From who?
Putin.
Have you heard Putin say that?
I think it was in
It was in the news, right? So they say in the news Putin is saying that. Huh?
Basically, he was threatening 2 weeks ago.
Was he? I didn't hear that.
He was saying, Ukraine.
You
Nuke nuclear
clear war.
atomic bomb.
Right. Yeah, that's very simplistic. It's very simplistic. You know, you sometimes you have children who get bullied, right? They go to school and they get bullied by 5, 6, 7 people, bullying. And normally people who get bullied, they are too afraid to stand up for themselves, right? These are the children with low self-esteem. These are the children who are emotionally actually already hurt, and they get more hurt until they burst, right? And then they lash out. And then they say, look at what that person is doing, lashing out for nothing. We did nothing. We were just joking, right? True. So whose fault? Who's the fault? Where's the anger? It's everywhere, right? You cannot just put a finger to one person. You cannot keep poking into somebody. And then when the person lashes out, say, ha, you are the bad one. You cannot do that. I mean, this happens all the time, right? But I think it is an incorrect representation of the truth. I don't think minds work like that. People are not, if we believe people are not bad by nature, right? If we all have a good nature, but due to causes and conditions, anger arises in the mind. Then when we see angry people, we have to think there must be reasons why this person is so angry. It's not coming from nothing, right? So believing, oh, there's one bad person in the world and he's going to do, it's like, I don't believe that that is correct. And I know that some teachers are talking like that, but I don't, sorry. I don't believe life is that simple. I think there are so many things happening that we cannot see, and that, you know, the only thing that we can see is what the news shows us, right? The news reporters are showing us. But what is really true, what is on the screen, we do not know, right? They can create anything. They can show us anything. We don't know if that is really true. We have to question everything. Right? Good. Don't believe what you just see. You know, if you see the possibilities, what they're doing with videos, what they make people say, that, you know, people never have said that, you know, but it looks so real. And so then you think, oh yeah, this is what this person said. They can do anything on the screen, anything.
It's all made in Hollywood.
It's all made in Hollywood, somebody says. I mean, they're creating perceptions, they're creating a narrative, for sure, you know, and so who is benefiting from that? Anyway, that's all politics. But I mean, politics, it's very interesting to analyze because so much is happening in the mind, and so much is, the mind is so used to manipulate so that they get the outcome that they want, you know, that's what I see. So you can get a lot of understanding of the mind when you look at it. Not just follow the news, but think about what is behind the news and why it is like that. Yeah? Then you can get a lot of insight of what really is going on.
The Western biased narrative.
Sorry?
It's a Western biased narrative.
It is a Western biased narrative, yes.
The BBC, CNN, others also, other channels.
Yes, all the challenge,
So
yes.
Western propaganda.
It is what it is. Somebody says, yeah, it's not me, right? But I kind of agree. It's Western propaganda. It's true. If you would look from the perspective from the other side, you know, for instance, if you want to talk about the West and then maybe put in all the West and any other country, that other country has a totally different story coming from their perspective. Totally different. And we never hear that story, right? I don't know, in Holland it's forbidden to look at the news coming from Russia. You're not allowed to listen to that. But I think I want to hear both sides of the story, and both sides of the story, probably something is manipulated, something has changed, you know, we don't know. We don't know what is really true in that. But I don't believe there is one bad person. I think we all, if we look into the mind, we all have a nature of inner goodness, but due to our ignorance, we also have a nature that reacts automatically. And so we all, due to karma, experience negative feelings. And in dependence on that, we all react with aversion and anger, right? There's not one person. We're all in this same shit together. Right?
Collective consciousness of that.
Total collective karma, you know, and if we would react differently, if we would train our mind and really develop patience, we will have an effect on the people around us, who will have effect on the people around them, you know. Then we can change that. Then we will get other leaders. Then other things will happen in the world, right? This is how we do it. So what was verse 6? Let me go back to that. Oh, yeah. So then the next verse. When there are any questions, you can ask them, right, of what I'm saying. Oh, you have a question? Yes.
Verse 6 it says, hence the enemy anger creates suffering such as these. So if anger is the reaction, what comes before that, hurt, is the feeling.
Yes.
What if you engage with the hurt?
Yes.
Is that still the enemy?
No. How would you? So I just say the question for the people online. So the question is, if anger is the enemy, anger is coming from the unpleasant feeling, from the hurt. So when I engage with the hurt, is the hurt also the enemy?
Because what I understood is that the argument is that don't engage with the emotional mind. You try to engage with your cognitive mind,
Yes.
which through reasoning, which will then form a belief, which can supersede your emotional mind. So by that logic, does it mean that you don't engage with the feeling of sadness or hurt or whatever?
Yes. Yes. I cannot completely repeat your the way you say it so beautifully. But it's so you actually explain what we're going to do when the emotional reaction is there. We're trying to develop a cognitive mind that is, or a wisdom mind that is strong enough to supersede that emotional mind. And so therefore, does that mean that we are not
supposed to
engage with the hurt, the sadness or the feeling that is underlying the emotional reaction? And so that can be like, actually it is totally the opposite. It is totally the opposite. The feeling, when we engage with the feeling, we can only engage with that feeling when we are not that reactive, right? When we are occupied with our anger, it's very difficult to feel what is underneath, right? So then we ask the person, you are so angry, what happened to you? You know, what are you actually feeling? And when people can start talking about their feelings, then the reaction that has arisen in dependence on that will subside, right? So what we want to learn is that we do experience our feelings, right? We cannot, actually you're going to feel more and more and more when you start connecting with these painful feelings or unpleasant feelings. you experience the feeling, you are with the feeling. So yesterday, you haven't watched yesterday yet, no? So we experience the feeling, and then while we experience the feeling, we try to be present with mindfulness, with compassion, with supportive, kind self-talk, so that we fully experience that feeling. And once that feeling has been experienced, there is no more need for a reaction to that feeling. The reaction to the feeling, to the unpleasant feelings, is there so that that unpleasant feeling cannot arise. You know, everything that arises has a certain, how you say that? Everything that arises comes to its height and then it dissolves back, right? Everything that exists, everything that is impermanent, goes through
The peak and the down.
the peak and the down, yes. So when unpleasant feelings arise, what we do is before it reaches its peak, we say, oh no, I don't want that. And we push it away with our aversion. We try to separate ourselves from that feeling with our aversion. We try not to feel it. We try to cover it up. We try to deny it. We have many ways that we do not have to feel that, right? So that feeling hasn't reached its peak. That is what aversion is doing. So we actually don't feel the feeling because of our aversion. When we lessen the aversion and we focus more on the feeling, then we can give the feeling the opportunity to completely reach its peak, and then it dissolves back, and then it is gone. Right? That is what you try to do. So the hurt feelings is not an enemy at all. The reaction to the feeling, the reaction, especially to the unpleasant feelings, is a reaction that disturbs the mind. And it is a reaction that, although it looks like it's going to protect us from suffering or it's going to separate us from suffering, it is actually bringing us much more suffering. And not only to us, also to other people. You know, so it is a very destructive reaction that we're having. And so therefore it is an enemy.
But the feeling disturbs the mind as well. Right?
Does the feeling disturb the mind?
Like if
Does
you
it?
feel intense sadness or pain, feeling hurt.
What is it? So when you feel intense pain or hurt, what is it that is disturbing the mind? Is it the feeling or is it your reaction to the feeling?
So difficult to disconnect the two.
It's difficult, huh? It's difficult to see the difference, but if you think about it, feeling, what makes that a feeling that, what makes that certain people react to a similar experience much more intensely than other people? Right? You do the same thing to two people. Some people, they start screaming, oh, it hurts so much. It hurts. And other people say, it's okay. What is the difference?
The level of your attachment and aversion.
Your level of attachment of aversion, your self-grasping, your reaction, right? Your reaction.
It's okay to hurt. Why do we have to suppress that hurt?
Why do we have to suppress that hurt? Well, because we don't like it, right?
Yes, so sometimes we have to just let the hurt take over and not react to it. It's okay. Let it come to its height.
Yes, that is when we can let the hurt come to its height and then it dissolves, it is gone, you know, then it is finished. You know, we have had this really good cry and it is gone. Yes.
Control the body.
Well, we want to push the hurt away, but we do it with a method that is actually creating more hurt. Right? It's not just that we are doing it in a way that is creating more hurt.
It's also this concept of good and bad, which we ingrain with. This is good and this is not good. So anything that comes up which is not good, we try and push it away.
Yes, that is part of that. Yes. So we have a very strong concept of good and bad. And so then when something arises that we see as bad, we push it away. That's true. That is also part of the reasons why we can get angry, right? Why we react so strongly.
Venerable, and
I'm just gonna see if people hear the questions that are asked here in the Gompa, or do I need to repeat them? Do I need to repeat them? Can I have a thumb up of somebody? No, you can hear them? Can you hear them? Okay, great. You asked the question.
I was just saying, Prabhuji, I think I once offered the definition here of anger in this class as the exaggeration of negative qualities of something.
Yes.
And I think that probably applies to hurt, discomfort, all of these things. And I think bringing, sorry.
Yeah, go on.
Uh,
I don't agree with that last little thing. So anger, the definition of anger is that what exaggerates the negative qualities of something.
I found hurt to be like that as well when I think about somebody's behavior or somebody's response. But stepping back from it, just as like with anger, I feel what can help in this process of cessation of the dissolution of the feeling is to bring to mind that idea that it's the exaggeration of negative qualities of something, of somebody, and why must we exaggerate? Now we can sort of anybody of reasonable intelligence can get themselves not to exaggerate the negative qualities.
Anything with anyone with reasoning or intelligence can
Reasonable intelligence.
tell themselves not to exaggerate. So the way that anger exaggerates is not coming from has nothing to do with intelligence. It is an emotional reaction based on ignorance. That ignorance has been with us since beginning of time. That is not something like, it's like that I say to you, that self that you believe in. You with reasonable intelligence, you should just see that you exaggerate that self. It doesn't exist like that, right? I can say that to you, but does it have any effect? Nothing, no? It's like as soon as the self comes up, I believe in it. It's there. Don't tell me it's not there. I can feel it. It's there, right? When you have been deeply hurt by somebody, we exaggerate the negative qualities, which means that, somebody hits me with a stick one time. In my mind, that is not that I'm angry because that person hit me one time with a stick. I'm become angry because that is a bad person. This is the exaggeration. It's not just one time with a stick. That whole person becomes bad. Not only that moment he hit me, he's bad all the time. He's just hiding his badness, but I know it is there. He's not just bad. Also, his children are bad. His wife is bad. His car is stupid. This is the exaggeration. Does it make any sense? But we believe it. And then I come to you and I said, come on, you're a sensitive man. You are clever. You can see that his children have nothing to do with what he's doing. And you say, oh yes, they do have something to do. And you have your reasons. Anger sees something very clearly. And I say it again, is convinced that it is completely right. And will tell you, I see it, and therefore it's there. That is a bad person. And his children are bad too. Right? This is the exaggeration. Reasoning doesn't help. Once the anger is in the mind, reasoning doesn't help. But we can, when we are out of the anger, we can look back and we think, oh, there, that was a little bit exaggerated, what I did there. It is actually, it was just that action that I was really angry with, what was very painful.
Ask to bring, at least from my experience, that helps me to bring myself out of the anger.
So, but you can train yourself in seeing that anger is exaggerated. And so the next time when I get angry, I should take that wisdom that sees it is exaggerated, take it with me And then maybe I can cool myself a little bit down when it happens, right? But the nature of anger is, it is exaggerated. To really see it, I don't know, I find it quite difficult when I'm angry,
Yes.
right? When you're really in it, it's very difficult to accept that you're exaggerating, right? But then afterwards, we can think about it, we can reflect upon it, and then we can make a determination that, oh, next time I'm going to catch myself earlier, right? I'm not going to put my anger onto the whole person. I'm just going to stick with what happened. And so when you make these determinations, then you can slowly bring them to the moment that anger arises. And you can actually apply them. And then your anger, you come much quicker out of your anger. But the hurt is not the same as the anger. The anger is a reaction to the hurt. Right?
The healing has to happen at the hurt level.
The healing is happening at a hurt level. What is healing? Healing is that we create conditions in which we can allow these painful feelings to arise so that they can dissolve back into the mind. That is healing. Right? Once we have felt them, and so in order to feel them, we need a lot of compassion around us. Or we have to provide ourselves with that compassion. And then that feeling can arise and then it can dissolve back and then hurt is finished. Some hurts are so deep that we need years of sitting with these feelings, you know, let them arise, developing more compassion, more wisdom to understand what was happening before these feelings can arise and then dissolve back into the mind, right? I'm telling it simple, but sometimes it's not simple at all. Can be your life work, right? Many lifetimes also, yes. Yes. Somebody says, both aversion and attachment exaggerate the bad or good that we see and respond to accordingly. That's true. So attachment exaggerates the good qualities, right? You see that when we fall in love with someone, right? That person becomes the most beautiful, fantastic, wonderful, amazing person in the whole world, right? Nothing wrong with that person. Even the negative qualities, we see them, oh, so cute, so nice. Look what he's doing now, it's so cute. And so everyone around us is like, you know, she's in love. And you think, why are they not seeing her? And then, you know, when the attachment starts to fade a little bit, you start to see things. Oh my gosh, what is he doing now? I thought that was cute, but I don't think it is cute anymore. Right? Then we become a little bit back to normal. So maybe we leave number 7 for tomorrow. Oh, no, we don't have tomorrow. Do we have tomorrow? No, tomorrow. Sorry. Do next week. Verse 7, there is a lot of information on it, you know, when we start talking about mental happiness and how we fuel our anger. And so I want to give enough time to talk about that. We already done 1.5 hours. You want to? I think we do it on Monday, you know, because I think you get a lot of information, you know, although we don't go quickly through the verses, we sometimes take already a jump to verses that are going to come and to digest the information and to really sit with it and try to connect with it is important, you know. You might be halfway in the chapter and you think, oh yeah, we already know this, we already heard this, we already understand this, right? It might be like that. But there's so many angles that we can focus on and that we can deeply think about. when we think about, you spoke about we need to generate different beliefs, right? Actually, the beliefs that we are having according to Buddhism are actually wrong beliefs. The beliefs in the self is a belief in something that in actuality doesn't exist. So therefore, whatever arises in dependence on that self are things that in actuality are they're not in touch with reality at all. They are totally exaggerated. And so you say we are trying to develop new beliefs, but what we are actually trying to do is we're trying to find reasons that are more in accordance with reality.
Through cognitive reasoning.
First, through cognitive reasoning. That's true. First, through cognitive reasoning. You need to also see that your emotional reaction doesn't make sense. That your emotional reaction, I mean, on a certain level, yes, but that your emotional reaction is not serving you in a way it is telling you, in the way it is promising you, right? You need to see that that emotional reaction is causing you a lot of suffering, is giving you the opposite of what you think it is doing to you. Once you see that, you think, okay, how can I do that differently? And how, I think once we are really connected to reality, conventional reality, ultimate reality, we find perfect happiness. So if we want to change the reactions that are causing suffering to us at the moment, we need to line our way of reacting more. We need to bring that more in line with reality itself. Right? When we see things as they are, there is no reaction. When we look at Lama Zopa Rinpoche and you speak to him about death, you speak about death and you're very, very shocked that somebody has died in your life. And he talks about it like, like you just changed your coat. Like, what's the problem with that? It's just part of nature. We just have to accept. Coat has changed and no reaction, no emotion, no nothing. Just light, so light. He's speaking about that. Right? So he has removed all that attachment. He has removed all these reactions of aversion to that, gone out of his mind, free. Right? This is where we can go. I mean, it seems to be insane at the moment. Like, how can you not be sad when somebody is dying? But if you really see reality as it is, and you can see many lifetimes, I mean, how can you hold on to life when there's so many lifetimes? Right? So then when attachment is gone, we are free. There's one more question.
Yeah.
Yes.
I was reading verse 6 and I was trying to figure out what is the opposite here. Hence the enemy, and if it's not anger, what would be the opposite there? Create suffering such as this.
What do you mean if it's not anger?
Yeah. Which we need to be careful for.
I'm not sure about your question. Hence, the enemy anger, the enemy which is anger.
So if you have anger to aversion, anger.
Yes.
You have conventionally we think of happiness.
Yes. Freedom from suffering, not happiness. We don't think anger brings us happiness. We think anger brings us freedom from suffering.
Sure. No, yeah. I understand. So what I'm trying to say, if you think of for instance, the 8 worldly dharmas, you have a pair, right?
Right.
So what would the pair be here as opposed to anger? What do we replace anger with? The kind of attachment we have for worldly pleasure.
On the other end of the spectrum.
Yes, yes.
Like attachment and aversion. What would aversion is attachment, aversion, and if aversion is anger, what's on the other end? What's the attachment equivalent?
Okay.
Maybe a level of
you mean the grasping that is going to be an enemy? No, so we don't say attachment is our enemy. Right? We never talk about attachment as our enemy. When we are angry with someone, right? Normally we're angry with someone. We see that other person as our enemy.
I understand your logic in this end. I'm trying to extend it to the other end.
But I'm not sure if there is another end that you can exit.
For instance, you love and you grasp an ice cream.
Yes, you love an ice cream and then you grasp that ice cream.
That's there's some kind of a suffering of change that, the ice cream's going to go. The love for someone, a lust for someone could go.
The
That's
lust attachment can go, yes.
Yes. So here, how would we place that here? In one step. Craving?
But what has it to do with this verse? This I don't get. Why? Because it is not that when we talk about anger, and then if anger is the opposite, if anger is the enemy, then you're going to look for an attachment that is going to be a friend, or what is it that you're looking for?
It is not just aversion which troubles you. It's also attachment which troubles you.
That's true. That is true. But it is an attachment in general, right? Anger can arise when we do not get one of these 4 worldly dharmas that we are craving for, right? Or when we get these 4 worldly dharmas that we are craving to be free from, then anger arises. It can be any of them.
I mean to say, for instance, criticism.
Yes.
Provides you with anger.
Yes.
But lack of praise.
Yes.
Can also provide you with a certain feeling. What would that be?
The lack of praise.
Which need not amount to criticism.
Yeah, you can also, when you really have a need for praise, then when you don't get praise, you can also get angry, right?
Can an attachment disturb the mind?
I think attachment also disturbs the mind, but that disturbance is seen as very different, as less damaging than anger. Anger is really destroying, right? It's really taking us away. Attachment often goes together with happy feelings, right? Not so much with negative feelings. But when negative feelings arise in the mind, then the anger that arises is so destructive towards our own health, towards our own happiness, right? It is destroying our own happiness. And it is destroying the happiness of others. So therefore it is seen as the most, especially when it is hatred, wanting somebody else to suffer. That is seen as the most destructive emotion. All the other emotions, they are also disturbing the mind, but not so badly, not so long, not so deep. They're not creating so much, I shouldn't say so much negative karma, but the negative karma of hatred is just so huge, right? When we have jealousy, there is also some anger in it, but there is also some attachment in it. So it's not that destructive. Although jealousy can also be very destructive. When the anger is big, then there is a lot of destruction, right? But the attachment is not destructive. And I shouldn't say that either. Because if we see what we do with the planet, right? We destroy that whole planet out of our
Even in the interpersonal
greed.
relationship, you think you love someone and you want to control that person.
When you think you love someone, you want to control that person.
Some people do.
Yes, but that is attachment. So when you have strong attachment to a person and that person is doing something that is endangering that relationship in your eyes, your anger arises, right? And then you might start controlling that person so that they stay with you, right? That is your anger. You're afraid that you're losing someone. You're afraid that that person is going to do something that you don't want. So anger arises. The stronger your attachment for that person, maybe that person is giving you some feelings that you really like, or maybe a feeling of safety, or maybe something else. Then if you're afraid that that person is going to leave you, you're going to grab, and you're going to stay with me, and you're going to do all kinds of things to keep that person with you. right? Including being angry. Yeah. All right.
But anger can be overcome by the compassion.
So
If you're
anger.
full of compassion, compassion is practicing.
Anger can be overcome by compassion. So anger, there are two antidotes to anger, two main antidotes. One aspect of anger is it disturbs the mind. And so in order to overcome that, we practice patience. One aspect of anger, and then it's more hatred, is that anger wants to harm the other person, the ill will. So then loving kindness, wishing happiness for that person, overcomes that anger, right? So we need these two aspects. That patience is helping us to control our mind. That loving kindness is there to counteract that anger.
What was the first one? Not ill will. What was the first?
Disturbing the mind. So anger has the quality of disturbing the mind, and the antidote to that is patience. Yeah, and the antidote to the ill will aspect of anger is loving kindness. Anger, hatred thinks I want you to suffer. Right? The opposite, I want you to be happy. That is loving kindness. Compassion is I don't want you to suffer. Right? That comes after that loving kindness.
Unconditional.
And then it should be unconditional.
Yeah.
But you know, let's start with conditional. That is already great if we can do that. So anger is explosive but easy to identify. Attachment is deceptive, difficult to identify. So both anger and attachment are deceptive. They both tell you something different than what they're actually doing. But anger is easier to recognize, or because it is so disturbing and it can be blow up so much in your mind, right? Although some people, they have this reaction in the mind of anger and they don't recognize it as being anger. But anger is somehow, you know, we have it sometimes and then it disappears again. We have it sometimes and then it disappears again. It is very difficult to always be angry, right? We cannot do that. But attachment, what attachment is doing is it is, they say it's like oil in cloth. It is soaking in our whole psychic. It is penetrating our psychic, the person that we believe we are. You know, it is so strongly connected to our needs, and when we feel that if I don't get what I need, I don't exist. You know, things like that. So attachment is very it's not consuming. It is like if I visualize my body full of energy, that attachment is everywhere, inside the fabric of my being. No, it is everywhere. Yeah, it's everywhere in the fabric of my being. While anger, it sometimes appears and then it is clearly seeing, oh yeah, this is, and then it disappears again. But attachment is connected to our whole fabric. So therefore it is pervasive. Thank you very much for that word. So therefore it is very difficult to separate. Oh, this is attachment and this is not attachment. You know, sometimes when attachment is there, we throw and we think I don't want that attachment, we throw out the whole thing. But we have to separate the things that are good, that are in line with reality, and then we need to separate attachment from that. So that makes it difficult. All right. So we do a small dedication. Shall I read a few verses? So when we dedicate, we gather all the positive energy that we have created by being here, by listening, by thinking, by trying to tune in, trying to understand, And then we dedicate that energy so that it keeps bringing fruit in the future again and again and again. And so when we dedicate that merit to our own enlightenment, you know, that merit may increase again and again and again until we are enlightened, then that merit will last until we are enlightened. So whatever merit that we have created tonight, may that be a cause for our potential of wisdom and compassion to continuously develop further and further. May beings not experience ever the misery of the lower realms, and may they never know any hardships. With a physical form superior to the gods, may they swiftly attain Buddhahood. And then we can also dedicate all the merits to the long life of all our teachers, including His Holiness the Dalai Lama, Lama Zopa Rinpoche, your own individual teachers, all those who are bringing the Dharma to this world, which is like a light illuminating the darkness of ignorance, bringing relief from our suffering existence. For as long as space endures, and for as long as living beings remain, until then may I too abide to dispel the misery of the world. Thank you so much for being here. Maybe see you on Sunday or otherwise on Monday. So on Sunday we have a day. It's also online, right? From 11 till 4 with a lunch break about mind and its potential. And then Monday till Wednesday, we have again sessions like this. We continue chapter 6.
Yeah, and Sunday's session, if you would like to go in person and you want lunch, please fill out the form that has been shared in the WhatsApp group. Or if you need it, you can ask me. Yeah, please fill out the form so we can reserve lunch for you. Yeah, unfortunately, if you're joining on Zoom, we can't really do much for you. But yeah, keep your own lunch and yeah, I can send it to you. Yeah, but it will be 11 to 4, 1 to 2 p.m. will be the lunch break on this Sunday. And to be determined. I'm up for taking requests. Any personal requests can be taken. And we will continue with chapter 6 and patience from next Monday. Again, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday next week. Oh, thank you. We're getting some food requests here, so I'm going to end the Zoom meeting now. People have gone on to thinking about food. I think we're all hungry.